Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. Today's daily recap is for Thursday, November the 20th, 2025. We find out where Dalton's body ends up. So yeah, he was dead. Sidwell killed him. And it's like they replayed the scene and they replayed it with a little tweak there on it. Because remember yesterday when he shot him, Dalton just fell on the chair, kind of looking like, what? You know? But I guess when they're like, oh shoot, we need to make him look deader. So when they started the show, they redid the whole scene. Britt walking up to him, saying he needs to cut you loose and blah blah blah. And Sid will say, yeah, she's right. And then he goes, but you need me. You need my research. And Sidwell shoots him. This time, Dalton hits the chair and now lands onto the floor, dead with his eyes open. Oh, okay. So this time you can say, oh, okay, he shot him and he just died with his eyes open. Versus he's ready to say his next line, right? So anyway, um Sidwell brings Pascal out. And Pascal was like, Britt was like, what is he doing here? He says, oh, I didn't mention. I brought Pascal on as my butler here. And she says, he tried to kill me. He strapped a bomb to my ankle. And Pascal said, nothing personal. And then he goes, no, no, I take that back. It was personal. You're annoying. You were belligerent. Oh, he just named all kind of how Britt just couldn't get with the program. So Sidwell says, okay, listen. Pascal says, oh, you want me to take care of that? He goes, first, I want you to take Miss Westbourne home. Oh, she is very upset, and I want to make sure she gets there safely without doing anything rash. And she looks at Sidwell, still shaken up and looking at Pascal, the man that tried to kill her. Well, now we get Pascal walking her to her door. Britt comes in. She goes, okay, I'm home. You could go now. She tries to close the door in his face. He's like, He walks in right behind her, and she's she's afraid of him, of course, right? Because she knew he will actually kill her. Before at the Five Poppies, she felt she had leverage over Pascal. Pascal was not the boss of her, right? So he goes, listen, you need to get some things straight. She goes, you're on my turf now. You don't tell me what to do. He says, oh, I absolutely do. He says, you will stay in line. You will do as you're told. And Mr. Sidwell wants to make sure you understand you will tell no one about the operation. And she goes, you could tell him I'm not going to tell anybody, right? About what we're doing. I'm not that stupid. And he goes, see to it that you don't. So Pascal leaves, and Britt is like kind of nervous, shaky. But the next scene it shows her in, she's coming into her room. She just took a shower. And look, they better be paying her some good money. Britt should be out of that room above Kelly's like fast because that's not secure enough. Not that the Metro Court is secure, but there's more people and there are cameras when they want the cameras to be working, right? I would feel safer at the Metro Court than the room above Charlie's. So anyway, she comes back in, she locks her doors, and she goes to get her medicine, and she puts it in the, takes it in, from the vial into the syringe, and she's ready to inject her side, and she has a flashback of Sidwell shooting Dalton, and she's startled, and she kind of gets herself together, and she wants to inject herself, but her hand is just shaking too much. And she has to just drop the needle, onto her bed. And she shrinks down onto the floor, just, crying and shaking, right? Because she realizes I'm in some deep crap. See, now she's knee deep in it. Before, she was just waiting for a package to arrive from Dalton. She worked in the lab at a five-star resort. She complained about not getting information fast enough. She could be a little bratty. Her biggest complaint was not being able to mingle with the guests, but rightfully so, right? Remember when we first saw her, she had snuck off and went out of town. She was used to just not following the grain. Oh, she can't do that here. See, Sidwell, she saw exactly what he's about. Okay. And Sidwell is not even the main he. So she's trying to figure out. Oh, and when Pascal left the room, she took her pillow. It's a small, like handheld pillow. And she screamed so loud into that pillow. So believable I mean, you really, I did not see her acting. Not that I see old Brit's acting or the whatever the actress name is, but I mean you could feel her emotions as she is just screaming into this pillow, right? So anyway, now she's crying onto the floor. And we have let's go on over to Doyle. Now Lulu comes to congratulate Boyle, her mama, and they are just, hugging and thank you, oh mom, you did it, blah blah blah. Doyle comes bursting in, you know, this is an outrage and I'm gonna fight this and blah blah. You think you won, and Laura's like, I have won, right? The voters have spoken. They don't want your brand of whatever you have going on for poor Charles, right? And so Lulu says, by the way, can I get your concession speech uh on file for the record? And she has her little recording up, her little recorder. And he goes, go day. And she goes, ooh, can I print that? you know. And so Laura says, you know what, Ezra? She walks over to him and she puts his hand, her hand's kind of on his shoulder, guiding him to the door. She says, you're having a tantrum, okay? So you're going to need to have your tantrum somewhere else. And at this point, he's outside her door and he turns and he looks at it and goes, I'm not. And she just slams the door in his face. And her and Lulu keep talking. Now, Lulu brings her up to speed with what's going to happen tomorrow at Dalton's, at that Charlotte and Danny are going to turn themselves in, and they're going to testify on Rocco's behalf, right? So anyway, Laura says, she's proud that Charlotte wants to do the right thing. She says, Lulu, it's important that your children, because she goes, look, Mom, I really wish it would be just Danny. going forward and leaving Charlotte out of it. And Laura said, but honey, that would be a lie. It's important that Charlotte knows she needs to tell the truth and take responsibilities for what she's done. She said, that's a very important lesson for her. And she says, and I'm proud that she wants to do it and not being forced to do it. And Lulu's like, yeah, well, okay, whatever, Lulu, right? So she wants Laura, she goes, Mom, come with me. Let's go celebrate. And Laura says, honey, I still have a little more work to do now that I'm not being distracted by the race. And she goes, you just won. Take the night off. Allow yourself to celebrate this. And she goes, you know what? Thank you for offering, but you need to go home and you need to talk to your daughter. You need to spend some time with your daughter. She says, because honey, we do know it's a risk. What they're gonna do tomorrow. You don't need to be out with your mother. You need to be home with your daughter. And she goes, you're right, Mom. Right? So Lulu leaves. And Laura works. And in my mind, I'm thinking, where the heck was doggone Kevin? And why did he not call her to congratulate her or something, right? So Laura is driving on the road. Now, the mayor's office should have been downtown, but and Laura doesn't live in no boondocks like Alexis or the Quartermains, but anyway, whatever. She's talking, and they kept showing the phone to make sure we saw Kevin. She's leaving a voicemail message for Kevin. He is in Dublin. And I don't even know what country Dublin is. Is Dublin a country? Y'all, look, tell me about that geography. Dublin, right? And she's like, I just had to leave this message for you, Kevin. It's so, I want when you wake up, you hear, you know, the results that I won, Kevin. And it's just, look, I'm not going to go to bed tonight. Whatever time when you get up, you call me. Doesn't matter what time it is here because I want to talk to you. And I thought, oh, that was cute. Yes and no. See, cute would be you knew this was a big night for your wife. I don't care where you are around the world and what time zone you're in. You would have set an alarm or should have set an alarm around the time when you knew the results would be in, right? Or you would have already been telling Lulu, hey, soon as you hear, because your mama might be busy, text me so I'll know if she won or not, because she may have needed your moral support if she lost, Kevin. That should have been one night. Kevin should have been pulling an all-nighter, staying awake to support his wife. I didn't get that, right? Yeah, it was cute. She left him a message, but no, he should have been. Soon as he got that text from Lulu, honey, I'm calling to say congratulations. I just found out. But we won't talk about that because Kevin is doing a great job as Joey on Beyond the Gates. Phenomenal job, right? So anyway, Laura's driving after she hangs up with him. She hears feels this kind of bump, and I thought, did she hit him? Did she hit his body? Right? And she's like, what? And then, but by the way she was steering, I said, oh, got a flat. So she pulls over, and sure enough, luck of the draw, the way she stopped, the screw in the tire was sticking up about this long, y'all. It was one that, come on now, that you put in between two by four studs to put a huge screw that punctured her tire. And she's like, oh no, not here. Because she's by mile 8, wherever mile 8 is, deserted. She's like, oh, she's outside her car. And she's like, okay, I got a reflectors. Where? She goes, I've got flares in my trunk. Laura goes to the back of her trunk, opens it up, and you see that in the bottom left. And she's looking, she goes, what is this mess in my trunk? Because it was this blanket covering up stuff. And she's thinking, I know I didn't leave this over my office file. She pulls it back, and there you go. At the top, you see Dalton. Now, his eyes still open, the way they were at Sidwell's, right? But they got him gray now, right? And Laura screams. There you have her at the bottom. Oh, jumping out of her skin. So Nathan must be the cop on the scene that responds. Of course, it'll be Nathan. Of course, right? Want to know why? Because Chase is busy off the clock on his own time, doing his own investigation. So he's at the Brown Dog. We left Laura screaming, right? He's at the Brown Dog, and he had called Nina to meet him. And she's like, I was surprised to get a phone call from you. And there was a guy in front of the pool table playing pool. And when she said from you, they had the guy stepping up like he's gonna, I guess, take his shot. And now you see his Chase. And now we got the beard coming in. Okay, Chase, it's gonna still be there tomorrow when you got your badge on your hip. And she goes, okay, what do you want? And he goes, I need to ask you a few questions about I think she said the night that Drew was shot, or he goes, about Jacinda. And Nina said, what about Jacinda? I mean, I know you paid her to drug Drew. And she says, oh, well, we won't be having this conversation without my attorney present because I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not talking about this. And he goes, don't worry. This is off the clock, off the record. She goes, detective. He goes, I am just here as Willow's friend. Oh, really? And he says, I believe in Willow's innocent and I am going to prove it. And Nina looked at him and she said, detective, won't you get in trouble for going against your own department's case? He says, I stand for finding the truth and justice. And I was kind of like, no, you don't, Chase. Not at all. You're the first person to say, we follow the evidence. You and Dante. We follow, because what your behind is going to do is say that same thing about Michael. The evidence is pointing, no, right? Evidence is pointing to Willow. Because let's be real, everybody. What got Willow arrested, even before Nina's alibi was proved to be a lie, was the gun found on Willow. So let's say we can disprove Jacinda as Michael's alibi. So what? The gun wasn't found at the Quartermaines where it belonged. That's where it belonged. Because even if it was found there, you know how many people in that house? Hello. But no, that just destroying Michael's alibi makes him guilty. Chase is an idiot, an absolute positive, and he looks so like he's so smug and so I'm gonna do this. And so now he's talking about what kind of person is Jacinda, and this would she take money to lie, for someone? And Willow says, of course she'd take money, due to the nature of her job. And I'm thinking, well, did Willow need to take any money to lie with her mama? Did Nina need to take money to lie about Willow? Right? So she goes, he goes, where do you know her from he goes, how did you know to get her to help you with the Drew situation? She says, well, I knew of Jacinda, enough. He goes, she says, enough. She frequently brought her dates to the Metro Court. He says, and would they get rooms there? She said, yeah, occasionally, which is why we would have her removed because we didn't want our hotel to be known as one of those kinds of hotels. And so Chase is looking, he goes, but what made you think? He goes, well, you know what? When I saw her with Ezra Boyle, yeah, I knew she'd take the money and do something else. And he goes, Ezra Boyle? Had you seen her with Ezra Boyle before? And Nina says, you know what? I don't know. I can't tell you if I saw her with Ezra Boyle before or not, because, like I said, Jacinda brought different people there. I didn't really pay attention like to the dates. It was her that they were looking at. So anyway, Chase is like, okay. And she goes, I really, really thank you for believing in my Willow and trying to help. He goes, I'm going to prove her innocence. So Chase is still at the Brown Dog. Now, you know how long ago Drew was shot? September, right? But a long time in Soapland, right? I'm going to pick tonight to just be hanging at a Brown Dog bar, knowing somehow some evidence is going to fall in my lap tonight, just magically of all nights. Soap opera writing. Because guess who happens to come in pissed off after Laura mocked him and told him to have his tantrum somewhere else? Ezra. And Chase sees it. And I said, oh, see, I hate writing like this. It still hasn't come out that Willow stalked Sasha and Daisy, but all of this stuff is falling into place. Dante couldn't find nothing on a traffic cam because he didn't look. And I'm changing the topic, but I had to bring this up. Michael didn't think to have Spinelli or Brick hack into them and find Willow. Willow is on there. Unbelievable. But anyway, he goes, by the way, Chase walks up to him. You should have won. I voted for you. And Boyle said, thank you. Thank you. And he was like, yeah, you would have been better, saying some crap to stroke his ego. You would have put the citizens of Port Charles first versus putting a crime boss, interest ahead of the city. And he goes, yes, I would have. And so he tells Chase, you want to sit down and have a drink? And Chase says, well, I don't mind if I do. And he sits down. Now, we don't get to hear their conversation, thank God, right? But before, and actually, Doyle came to the brown dog after he made one other pit stop. After Laura, or was it before Laura? No, after Laura. He comes down to the Metro Court. He goes, Michael's having a date with Jacinda because they're becoming a regular item. And uh Doyle comes in and he goes, Jacinda? Just walks up to the table with Michael and Jacinda talking, right? And he goes, I've been wanting to talk to you. You haven't returned any of my calls. And Michael looks at him and says, excuse me, but we're having a private conversation here. And Doyle looks at him and said, why haven't you contacted me back? I called your agency and they said that you don't work for them anymore. And now Michael's like, you know what? I just told him to get away. And so she goes, no, I have a new profession now, or new career, whatever she says. And so Michael stands up now. He says, look, I asked you nicely to leave because we're having a private conversation. And if you don't leave, I'm going to throw you out of this hotel myself. But before Michael said that, he says, look, whatever he's paying you, Mr. Moneybags, he says, I'll pay you double, Jacinda. And he goes, matter of fact, I'll triple what he's paying you. And I looked, I thought, Ezra, and your cheap suit, you don't have any money. You're an assemblyman. Or what is he? I think he's a councilman. Whatever he, sanitation super. I don't know what he is. But he's a very lower level in politics, right? You don't have the money to triple whatever Michael's paying her if he was paying her. You're not Mr. Moneybags, Ezra. So she looked at him, and that's when Michael, oh, that offended Michael, because he goes, because girls like you don't really change the way you are. And she looked at him, and that's when Michael stood up and was like, I will kick your ever loving, you know. And so Jacinda stands up. Michael, listen. Ezra's an old friend of mine. Listen. And so she looks at Ezra. Ezra, Michael is not paying me any money, right? Uh, we were friends, but I need you to understand, not in that business anymore. No hard feelings, right? And he just looks at her and he walks out of there. And I think that's when he went to the brown dog, right? Well, see now what they're trying to do in this neat little bow for Chase is now Ezra has had a run-in, be it minor, but now he's had a run-in with Michael. Okay. Now he would love to get Jacinda away from Michael. Chase is going to get him to say he was with Jacinda. Because all Chase is going to tell him, oh, see, now mind you, he's doing this privately, but he's going to say, I'm trying to prove Michael's alibi. He was not with Jacinda. Now, if you were her client and you were with her that night, that would disprove his alibi. He's going to tell him something leadingly that Ezra will say, well, I was with her. Even if Jacinda wasn't with him. Remember we were saying, ooh, Jacinda was with Doyle, right? I don't know now, everybody. I think, especially since they just conveniently had Doyle just sitting up in with Michael so many times out in public, they're making sure of it. But he just conveniently, but I guess, right? Election's over. He don't have to worry about people thinking that he's calling a escort. He don't care now, right? So that could be a reason. But I'm just saying, as far as tying up a story too convenient against Michael, they're doing it. And every time they do it like this, Michael's not the suspect. Michael didn't do it. Well, I never believed he did in the first place. But you want to know who does believe it and is pissing me off, y'all? Is that doggone Sonny Corinthos. And I'm a Sonny fan, but not against the new Michael, I'm not. You better leave Rory alone. Okay? Sitting up there at the table telling Carly, did you meet Michael's new girlfriend? New alibi? And she looked over, she goes, no, not after my the words I had with Lucas. I'm gonna give you this in 30 seconds. They get in the elevator together. Lucas is going up to meet Marco. Carly has to be Carly talking about you making up the same old thing that she said at Bobby's. And he says, you know what, Carly, looks like I need to be cutting you out of my life. The door's open. He goes to the table with Marco. She goes to the table with Sonny. That's all we need to talk about. It's ridiculous. And so she looked and she's like, oh. And he says, he's making a big mistake. And she says, what are you talking about? Michael, I wouldn't blame him because I believe he shot Drew. And I wouldn't blame him if he did. But the problem I have is he's framing an innocent woman. And Carly looked at him and said, wait, you mean to tell me you're going to side with Willow over our son? And he goes, no, you know, I'm going to always back Michael, but I'm saying, should an innocent woman go to prison for something Michael did? And Carly looks over at Michael and she looks at Sonny. And I'm thinking, Sonny, I just shake my head. I'm like, yeah, let Sidwell do his. Go ahead, Sidwell. Do your worst. Because see, Sonny has lost his edge. How many times, Sonny, did you go to Willow while Michael was in Germany? Trying to get her to even get some contact with Michael and the kids. And then when Michael came home, you know, or even though he encouraged her to compromise and Jason, you know, with Michael, you know, I'm sure Michael will compromise with you. And no, Drew and I we will make the decisions for our children. Oh, right. And what did he tell her? You're gonna regret it. You're gonna regret this. Oh, but he goes, sure, she's made some mistakes. I said, oh, good God, shut up, Sonny. And that's all I'm going to say about him because I'm very disappointed in this. And he's talking about this like this in public. Brooklyn, too. Both of y'all need to just shut up about it. Willow would definitely do it. So speaking of her, she was meeting with Diane. Diane. I wish Diane were around. But speedy healing on the leg. She's had a few surgeries on that. I think it was ankle, leg, lower leg, bad break. So anyway, Alexis. And she says, Alexis, I haven't been active enough in my own case. I really want to get involved with fighting. And so she goes, what can I do to help? And Alexis says, okay, well, first thing you need to do is tell me, since we know you weren't with your mother, I need to know step by step what happened and where you were. So now we get another version of or Willow's version, because before we had Nina's version. And she goes, and first of all, why would you go along with the lie and the alibi? She said, I was caught off guard. And I thought I needed to give Nina an alibi. Whatever it could be. So anyway, um, no, you didn't, because you did it. So anyway, well, no, could be, unless Portia did it. So anyway, um, Alexis says, okay, what happened? Well, I had found out some devastating news that Judge Herring had been killed. And she was, I had been led to believe that she was sympathetic, to me this time. And as long as I did X, Y, and Z, that she was going to, grant me visitation. Now with her dead, that just blew that. She says, I was so upset, I had to get out of that hospital. She says, so I walked out and I started walking, but shortly after that, it began to rain. So I went to my car and I was looking at pictures of my kids. And at that point, I was sobbing, thinking, I'm just never going to get to see them again. Really? Right? And so then Alexis says, did you leave? Did you drive anywhere? Did you leave that hospital? She says, yes, I needed to clear my head because I knew I could not go back into the hospital like this. So now everybody, look, I'm sobbing. I'm distraught, but I'm going to get in my car, turn on the engine, and just drive. Yeah, there we go. Now and it's raining, pouring down. Now that's going to work, right? She says, so, she says, and where did you drive, Willow? No, I just drove. And so she goes, did you drive by Drew's house? No, no, I just drove. Like she can't tell you which direction I drove because I was upset, but I could tell you I didn't go by his place. And Alexis says, okay. She says, but then I realized I had calmed myself down. I knew I had to pull myself together and get back to the hospital and get back to work because I wasn't on my break and I can't afford to lose my job. So I drove back to the hospital and I parked my car and I went back in, but I got soaking wet just from the parking lot to going back into the hospital. Soaking wet. So Alexa says, okay. So she goes, we're gonna get you deposed, get this deposition, typed up, get this statement done. And she goes, I know I don't have an alibi. I know it doesn't look good. And so Alexis just looked at her like, no, chicken, don't. But she didn't say that. She just like, no, don't, but that's all right. Right? She says, look, the truth, a truthful alibi was better than that lie. So Alexis says, I'll be in touch. And Willow's like, thank you you have been just working so hard. You and Chase. She may have said Drew. I don't know if she said Drew. She may have said Drew. I've been working so hard. I just want to thank you. So she, oh, hugs Alexis, and Alexis is looking like, okay, why are you touching me like this? This is a job. You're my client. Like, we were never close before this. But okay, right? So Willow leaves. She goes, I never thought that Michael would frame me for the, oh, here we go. We had to throw that in there. Michael's framing her. So that was the whole thing with Willow and Alexis. And now we got this tidbit that now Willow knows. She knows she was driving. And because she actually said, I did leave the hospital, I, but I just drove. The whole definition. I just drove. When you say I went for a drive, there's nothing else to be said about that, right? The back of my mind, I'm like, somebody saw you and you know it. Somebody else, you really realize, oh shoot, I can't, because otherwise everybody, you know what she would have said? No. I sat in my car crying my eyes out for about 20 minutes. And then I pulled myself together. But really, it was more than 20 minutes. Remember, she left the hospital. Drew was shot, I think, I forget the timeline. Who cares about that? But it was like a whole 45-minute gap, right? That needs to be accounted for in people's timeline. So I guess she felt she couldn't say she sat in her car for 45 minutes, but that's sure what I would have said. Except hospital cameras from the garage. Oh, that's right. We're talking GH. They don't even have the cameras in the hallway working half the time. That's right. But realistically, cameras would show Willow leaving the parking lot, right? Any good attorney would know to check the cams. That's why she said, I just went for a drive. Why she didn't tell Nina, look, stupid, you're saying you were with me. Actually, Nina said she pulled up and got Nina because it was raining, and Willow got in the car with her. Willow knows the cameras would show she was driving her own car. But I guess they were thinking, who will find out? Whatever. Who's gonna find out? This Port Charles, PCPD. They're not gonna find out, right? So now let's see. I think I've covered. Oh, one last bit of news. The last bit of news was Michael called Sonny over. She goes, Dad, come here. So Sonny gets up and he comes over. He goes, hey, Michael. Hi. He was kind of wanting Michael to say, oh, Dad, this is Jacinda, because I don't think Sonny's met Jacinda. Um, he goes, I just got unofficial word. It's official, but it hasn't been announced yet, Dad. It'll be announced in the morning. He said, Measure C did not pass. And Sonny looked at Michael. He said, Sidwell lost. And Sonny's like, yeah. And I'm thinking, yeah, doggone it. The way you were talking about Michael, I was hoping it did pass, Sonny. You know, salty about Sonny. So anyway, now Sidwell is really getting ready to ramp up things. But to me, everybody, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before I go, they've moved the operation to Port Charles. Britt is from Port Charles. Too many people know her. How is she going to work in the lab without people knowing? What I want to know is how she going to carry on two jobs, GH in day and lab by night. They have a timeline with their project. They would want her working full time. I They needed to me to move that operation out of that state. Seriously. Period. Out of the state. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. And Lucas and Marco come home into the door and there's Sidwell. Oh, fireplace going. Pascal's butlering, giving him some tea. And Marco goes, Dad, what are you doing? He goes, Oh, doing some light reading. And he closes the book. He says, I would think you would be glued to the news to find out what happened with Measure C. And Sidwell says, No, wanted to relax. Pascal's been doing a great job of distracting me. And Marco looks at his father, and Lucas just standing there like an idiot. See, yeah, Lucas, I can't wait. Welcome to the lion's den. So Pascal is standing there, and Pascal's looking at Lucas. Lucas like a dummy, kind of like, well, okay, yeah, okay. So anyway, that's it, everybody. Now, everybody, don't forget on Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, which is 7 p.m. Central time and 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be live on YouTube. I can't wait. We're going to have a great time together, everybody. And you know what I forgot to say at the beginning of this daily recap? Subscribe to this YouTube channel. We want to get to 6,000 subscribers. So go ahead and subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow with another day. Ooh, because it's going to be good. Laura, and everybody knows. Well, look, not everybody. Laura has alibi. Too many people were with Laura the whole time. Yeah, Lulu left, but not enough time for her to go for Laura to kill Dalton. And where Laura's car is coming from, it's from her office. No, Laura didn't do it, but hopefully, see, guess what? Now the news is gonna come out. Rick's gonna hopefully everybody knows, and the DA puts a halt to the proceedings for Rocco and them. So the kids don't have to lie. I don't want that to happen. Charlotte and Daddy lying like that. I don't want that. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of General Hospital.